Hi, and welcome back to Ronnie the Reader. Today I'm going to be going over a recommendations video where I'm going to be recommending some mystery thrillers that I think are great for beginners into specific kind of sub-genres of mystery thriller. So I have a couple of different books here, about five, but I may mention a few more throughout the video as we talk about some of the specific sub-genres that I want to cover today that I think are great to get into mystery thrillers. I think all of these books are pretty accessible as far as both readership, like the amount of people that can read them. Most of them are pretty well known, popular books that are probably available through the library, or you could probably find at a lot of like used bookstores and things like that. And then I also think that they are readable in the sense that they're not too complicated, they're not overly difficult to understand or to grasp. So getting kind of hooked into the story is really easy for all of them. So that is kind of the purpose of today's video. So we're going to be jumping in and going over kind of a couple of the subgenres and some books that I recommend for each. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, the first subgenre that I kind of want to explore and give some recommendations is a classic, and it's more of the locked room kind of mystery. So this is where you have an isolated group of characters that all kind of come together for a particular reason, and then slowly but surely they start to kind of fall off one by one. So obviously a really good example of this is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, which I did read, but I only gave that book about 3 stars. I didn't exactly love it, but one iteration of that book that I did really love is a book or an author that has a lot of books in the mystery thriller genre. So even if this one doesn't work for you, I think some of the other ones would. But it is An Unwanted Guest by Sherry LaPina. This is basically following a group of people who get snowed in at this remote kind of resort cabin area, and then they kind of start to slowly get picked off one by one. It's written in an interesting way where it's kind of told in third person perspective, and you jump from everyone's heads as you are reading the story. Sometimes mid chapter, you're just suddenly with a new character. And I personally really like that aspect. I know that doesn't work for everyone, but this is my favorite Sherry LaPena that I have read. I have read all of her other books, and I'm currently in the middle of the one that just came out like last year, a couple months ago. And I enjoy them all, but this one is my favorite, and I think it's a great example of the locked room sub genre that you could be looking for. But all of her other books, I think, are also great starting points if you're just looking to jump into the mystery thriller genre, which kind of takes me to my next subcategory. So the next category I want to talk about is going to be the just kind of classic, like domestic suspense thriller stories that you may have heard of. And while I think Sherry LaPena is a great person to jump into, I definitely want to recommend some Riley Sager as well. Riley Sager is currently my favorite like mystery thriller author that's publishing books. I just seem to always really like his work. To a certain extent, there are some that I have more issues with than others, but I think his first book, Final Girls, is a really interesting take. This one is a little bit more horror-esque or horror adjacent, is about girls who were hunted by serial killers, and now like years later after those events are taking place, further things are happening that are threatening their life. Riley Sager has a bunch of other books that are more supernatural, more horror, more just kind of straight up domestic suspense thrillers. My favorite Riley Sager book is The Last Time I Lied, and that's the one that I do recommend the most. But I also recommend reading his books in order. That is how I read them. I read them all in publication order, and I really enjoyed the ride and the experience of reading them in publication order. I'm really excited for With a Vengeance to come out in a couple of weeks, but if you want a good jumping in place, I recommend starting with Final Girls, and if this one isn't for you, then maybe recommending The Last Time I Lied. But definitely check out all of the premise of his books and just kind of pick the one that works best for you. A different author that I want to shout out kind of during this subsection as well that I didn't pick for this video, but I do seem to really love her books. It is Megan Miranda. Megan Miranda has written multiple mystery thrillers, both in the adult and young adult category. So if you're looking for a place to jump in, go ahead and do it. I think my favorite Megan Miranda at this point is maybe The Only Survivors or Such a Quiet Place, but I do really enjoy all of them. For the most part, All the Missing Girls by Megan Miranda didn't work for me perfectly, but I definitely recommend giving her a shot if you like more of that just traditional domestic small town story. The next kind of subcategory and jumping in point that I want to recommend is more of that dark, twisted, psychological story. And how can I not go with the number one goat of all time, Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn? This was the first mystery thriller book that I ever read when I was in high school. Well, like read as like an adult and consciously reading and choosing what I was reading. And I absolutely loved this book. It blew me away. It's still probably my all-time favorite mystery thriller. If you have somehow gotten this far in life and don't know the twist of Gone Girl, like, and you read this, it's so good. But even if you have seen the movie, I definitely recommend reading the book as well. Gillian Flynn's writing is really good and really strong, and she does have other multiple novels as well. Those ones are a little bit more, I would say, well, she has Sharp Objects, which is very similar in vibe. It's more of a smaller town, still darker psychological thriller, but then Dark Places is a little bit more horror-esque, and I think probably her most, I would say, brutal novel of them all. So definitely different vibes in all three of her works. I recommend obviously starting with Gone Girl, but you can't really go wrong with picking any of her books. I really enjoy them all. I think they're great starting places. Some kind of similar people, although I haven't read any of her work. I know Karen Slaughter, a lot of people kind of compare the two. I know her works are a little bit more darker and kind of have that more brutal edge to them as well. So maybe checking her out and giving her a shot. Her works, I did try to read Pretty Girls. It just didn't work for me. It was a little too much for my liking, and I think that this one, as far as Gillian Flynn and Gone Girl and even like Sharp Objects or Dark Places, is, tough. It's very visceral, but it's not over the top, and I would say more easily accessible for people looking to just get into the genre. All right, and lastly, I want to recommend some more just kind of cozy type mysteries. Now, the ones that I have here, I don't typically read too much cozy mysteries, so these I would say are more cozy, but they still have that suspenseful edge to them, and I really liked the way that both are written. But starting first with The Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz, and then I also have The Word is Murder by Anthony Horowitz. So both of these are more like meta-esque type books. They kind of follow authors that are writing stories, and you're reading that story within a story while also following a different story. So you're kind of getting like two mysteries at the same time. And while these are, I would say, more cozy, they definitely still have a little bit of an edge to them, like I said. I know that other kind of cozy type mystery stories that people like to recommend, although I have not read these ones either. I know Finley Donovan is very popular. I believe that there's 3 books in that like companion series. I think you do have to read them in order, but I'm not super sure. And then I know The Thursday Murder Club is another one by Richard Osman that gets recommended a lot. So, maybe check those out as well. But I personally really liked Anthony Horowitz's writing. I'm not the sole proprietor of this topic. I don't know everything. But yeah, so I definitely recommend these as kind of cozy mysteries, but there are some other ones out there that you can get started with as well. All right, so that is it for this video. Pretty quick, just wanted to recommend some good mystery thrillers. That's personally my favorite genre. I am jumping back in. I've just finished 2 mystery thrillers that I really liked. So definitely check out my wrap up coming up next week, where I'm going to be talking about that. And I'm currently in the middle of one that I also am really enjoying. So probably check out my wrap up for June to see how that one goes. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know some of your favorite mystery thrillers down below and ones that you recommend for people to check out, just in general, or if you want to break it down by a specific subcategory, feel free. But that is it for today's video. Thank you so much, and until next week, I will see you then. Bye.